In the secluded wilds of northern Montana, 12-year-old Liam discovers two trembling bear cubs nestled beneath fallen cedar branches during the season's first fierce blizzard. Their small forms, barely discernible against the snow-draped terrain, quivered with each faint breath. With no mother in view and twilight descending, Liam makes a choice that would reshape his destiny. Gently tucking them inside his quilted parka, he carries them to his grandmother's lodge, where they spend the night curled near the iron stove, their fragile lives teetering on the edge. By dawn, their vigor returns, but so does their mother, a majestic black bear with deep obsidian eyes, standing poised at the edge of the meadow, observing. What mysteries might this wild creature unveil about Liam's own enigmatic roots? What ancient bond ties this boy to the untamed lands he's always felt pulled toward? Liam jolted awake, sunlight piercing through the lodge's ice-glazed windows. The bear cubs had endured the night, their tiny bodies now nestled in a cozy pile of quilts by the fading glow of the stove's embers. His grandmother, Clara, stood by the window, her weathered hands cradling a steaming tin mug of tea, her eyes locked on something beyond. "She's been there since first light," Clara said, her voice soft but rough with years. Just standing, watching, Liam joined her at the window. There, where meadow met forest, stood the mother bear, her ebony fur gleaming in the morning sun, her dark eyes fixed on the lodge. She made no move to advance, yet her purpose was clear. "I should take them to her," Liam said, grabbing his coat. Clara's hand rested heavily on his shoulder. "Boy, you don't chase wild beasts into these woods, especially not bears." She slipped an old pocket watch from her apron, its silver edges smoothed by decades of touch. "This forest can twist you up quicker than you'd think. Your grandfather gave me this watch when we settled this land, said even a soul who feels the path needs a guide now and then." The cubs stirred as Liam neared. Their eyes, a soft hazel knot yet deepened to maturity, regarded him with curious trust. He scooped them up gently, their warmth and liveliness a stark contrast to the night before. "I'll just return them and head right back," Liam vowed, buttoning his coat against the crisp morning air. Clara sighed, recognizing the determined set of his jaw. "That watch was your grandfather's last gift to me. Take it, and be back before midday, or I'm coming for you." Outside, the bear watched as Liam approached with her cubs. He paused 20 yards away, kneeling to place them on the snow-dusted ground. Instead of rushing to their mother, the cubs circled Liam's boots, nudging them playfully before ambling toward the waiting bear. What followed defied all of Clara's cautions. Rather than retreating into the woods with her young, the mother bear turned, took several steps into the trees, then paused, glancing back at Liam expectantly. "She wants me to follow," Liam murmured, the watch heavy in his hand. He'd only been with his grandmother for 3 months, since the tragedy that claimed his parents. Raised in a bustling city, but captivated by wildlife shows and survival guides, Liam had astonished Clara with his natural ease in the wilderness despite little prior experience. These woods felt like a return to something familiar, though he'd never stepped foot here until this autumn. The bear moved deeper into the forest, pausing occasionally to ensure Liam followed. The cubs romped alongside, sometimes darting into the undergrowth only to reappear ahead. Liam checked the watch's compass feature often, noting their path trending northeast into the unmapped reaches of the forest Clara had explicitly warned him to avoid. An hour into their trek, the landscape shifted. The gentle hills gave way to rugged terrain, with ancient firs looming overhead, their canopies dimming the morning light. Liam should have felt dread, wandering in uncharted territory, trailing a wild beast. Yet an instinct stronger than logic assured him he was secure. The bear slowed her stride as they neared a thick curtain of foliage. To an untrained observer, it seemed an impassable barrier, but she lumbered confidently toward a slim opening, nearly hidden unless viewed from their exact approach. The cubs slipped through with ease, vanishing from sight. Their mother paused, fixing those keen obsidian eyes on Liam once more. A peculiar sensation swept over him. Not quite words, not quite emotions, but a clear directive in between. Follow. Liam squeezed through the tight passage, branches snagging at his clothes. He stepped into a hidden glade, perfectly round and encircled by soaring firs. At its heart stood something that halted him, his breath forming faint mists in the crisp morning air. There, half claimed by years of nature's embrace, was a lodge, not a modern build like his grandmother's, but something far older. Hand-hewn timbers, darkened by time, a stone chimney tilting slightly, windows fogged with dirt but eerily intact. The bear and her cubs waited calmly by what was once a front door, now dangling from a single corroded hinge. The pocket watch in Liam's hand felt heavier, as if urging him toward this astonishing find. Something about this place stirred him in ways he couldn't voice, a familiarity that defied reason yet resonated deep within. Liam approached the ancient lodge with careful steps, each one snapping in the frost-covered undergrowth. The bear lingered by the slanted door, her cubs romping nearby, unfazed by the oddity of the moment. As Liam drew nearer, he noticed details that sparked his curiosity. The lodge's craftsmanship was masterful, not the crude shelter of a fleeting trapper. The wood, though aged, had been chosen and fitted with care. Someone had built this to endure. "What is this place?" Liam whispered, expecting no reply. The bear tilted her head, her dark eyes gleaming with uncanny awareness. The door teetered, ready to collapse at the slightest nudge. Beside it, half hidden by overgrown lichen, rested a large stone etched with a simple, circular maze. Its placement felt intentional, not ornamental. Liam knelt and eased the stone aside, uncovering a shallow hollow beneath. Inside was a tarnished bronze key, its intricate design still visible despite time's wear. Liam lifted it, studying its elaborate teeth and ornate grip. "This has been here for ages," he murmured. The bear let out a low, almost approving rumble. With cautious pressure, Liam tested the door. It creaked in resistance, but held where the ancient lock still functioned. The key fit smoothly, as if destined for this moment. A quarter turn, and the lock's tumblers clicked audibly. The door swung inward on its lone hinge, releasing a stale scent of sealed space and faded memories. Dust motes swirled in the slivers of light piercing the grimy windows. The lodge's interior was a single chamber with a low loft overhead. A stone fireplace anchored one wall, its hearth long cold, likely for decades. What struck Liam was the lodge's orderly state. Not looted or abandoned in haste, but deliberately sealed, its contents arranged with intent before time took over. A wooden bench sat beneath the largest window, strewn with outdated research tools. Magnifying lenses, journals filled with neat, meticulous script, and maps charting the nearby woods. Rough shelves held labeled glass vials, their contents decayed into unidentifiable residue. The bear entered behind him, her cubs trailing with none of the wariness a wild creature should display toward a human dwelling. They moved through the space with an ease that suggested familiarity, settling near the cold fireplace as if it were routine. Liam ran his fingers over the bench's surface, uncovering the deep grain of the wood beneath years of dust. Journals were stacked in order, their leather covers worn but holding firm. He opened the topmost one, finding an inscription on the flyleaf. Field notes of Samuel Holt, Wildlife Research Station Number 4, 1971. The pages detailed bear behavior, family structures, foraging habits, and communication patterns, far more sophisticated than anything Liam had read in school. Mixed with scientific data were personal reflections, the handwriting sometimes shifting to a fervent tone. They're trying to speak, one entry read, not just among themselves, but to me. The textbooks are wrong. There's a language here, if only I could grasp it. Photographs pinned above the bench showed a bearded man in his 30s standing in this very glade across different seasons. In several, bear cubs tumbled at his feet. Cubs whose markings hinted they could be ancestors of the ones now sniffing the lodge floor. Liam's eyes caught on a photograph half hidden behind the others. The man stood beside a young woman, her long auburn hair and sharp jawline sparking a jolt of recognition. She looked strikingly like his mother. The lodge's exposed beams overhead bore carvings, spirals, paw prints, and intricate patterns Liam couldn't place but felt oddly familiar. The bear watched him closely as he traced a carved symbol, a faint tingle like static running through his fingers. In the lodge's far corner stood a plain wooden chest, its lid slightly askew, as if disturbed more recently than the rest of the room. Liam approached cautiously, feeling the bear's gaze tracking him. Inside were children's clothes from decades ago, a handful of hand-carved toys, and, beneath them, a faded photograph in a tarnished brass frame. Liam lifted it carefully, brushing dust off with his sleeve. His breath hitched. The image showed a young boy, about his age, with the same tousled chestnut hair and piercing hazel eyes Liam saw in his own reflection. The resemblance was uncanny, impossible, yet undeniable. The bear padded quietly to his side, her muzzle gently brushing the hand holding the photograph, as if affirming what he struggled to process. Liam set the photograph back in the chest with unsteady hands. The boy's likeness to him couldn't be chance, yet he had no explanation. Turning back to the lodge, he began a thorough search, clearing dust from shelves and drawers. The research tools were extensive: calipers, sample jars, a microscope lacking its lens, and what looked like early audio recorders. In one corner sat a shortwave radio, its knob seized with age. Liam found a leather-bound journal distinct from the others, thicker, its cover embossed with a bear silhouette. Its pages began with neat script that grew more frantic over time. Breakthrough today, read an entry from summer 1972. Female bear number 5, Ebony, showed remarkable understanding, not just trained behavior. She anticipated my actions before I signaled. Their communication goes beyond what we know. Evidence points to bears holding complex inherited memories, knowledge passed across generations, far beyond mere instinct. Liam glanced at the black bear, now lounging by the cold hearth. Could she be a descendant of the one noted in the journal? The pages pressed on with bold theories about interspecies communication and shared cognitive pathways. Samuel Holt had recorded experiments tracking bear responses to various stimuli, documenting patterns that challenge standard zoological knowledge. They're trying to tell us something, one passage declared, underlined heavily. The barrier isn't their intelligence. It's our failure to understand their signals. The bear rose abruptly, moving with purpose to a section of wall near the fireplace. She pawed lightly at the base, glancing back at Liam expectantly. He knelt beside her, running his fingers over the rough-hewn timbers until he felt a slight give, a panel that shifted under pressure. Pushing it open revealed a hidden nook containing scientific tools wrapped in oilcloth. Liam carefully unwrapped them, uncovering specialized recording devices with earpieces and a notebook filled with cryptic numerical codes. The final page held a rushed scrawl, signal frequency pinpointed. They communicate beyond human hearing, but within mental reach. Corporation agents arriving tomorrow must hide key findings elsewhere. If found, continue at coordinates. The rest of the page was torn away, the location lost. A noise outside, twigs cracking under heavy steps, jerked Liam's attention. The bear's ears twitched, her stance instantly alert. Through the murky window, Liam glimpsed his grandmother's familiar figure entering the glade, her face torn between concern and disbelief. Clara stepped into the lodge cautiously, her weathered features paling as she surveyed the interior. Her eyes flicked from Liam to the bear, then to the research gear on the bench. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice unusually strained. "How did you find this place?" Liam pointed to the bear. "She led me. The cubs I saved, this is their home." Clara's eyes narrowed. No bear dens in a human building. Yet these do. Look how at ease they are. Liam held up the embossed journal. Someone named Samuel Holt was studying them. Their communication, their intelligence. Do you know anything about it? Clara's reaction was swift and telling. Shock, then a weary acceptance. She sank onto a dusty stool, suddenly showing every one of her 70 years. "Samuel Holt," she murmured. "A name I haven't heard spoken in decades. Did you know him?" There's a photograph that looks like... Liam faltered, unsure how to voice the eerie resemblance he'd found. The bear approached Clara, showing no trace of the wariness expected from a wild creature. She sniffed Clara's outstretched hand, then glanced between the two humans, as if conveying something crucial. "She knows you," Liam said, observing closely. Clara nodded slowly. "We've met before." She exhaled heavily, running a hand through her gray hair. "I didn't expect you to find this place so soon. Your grandfather always said the forest would share its secrets when the time came. I hoped you'd have more time before it did." "Time for what? What's happening here?" Liam pressed. "This lodge, these woods, they're part of your past, boy. A past I've kept from you because I wasn't sure you were ready." Clara glanced at the carved beams above. "Your mother turned her back on this place for a reason." "My mother? She knew this lodge. She spent part of her childhood here." Clara stood, resolute. "I'll tell you what I can, but not now. Night's coming, and these woods shift after dark. We need to head back." "We're coming back tomorrow," Liam said firmly, not asking. Clara looked at the bear, a silent understanding passing between them. "Yes, there are things you need to know, things only this place can show you." She tucked the leather journal into her coat. "But first, you need to understand what you're walking into." As they departed, the bear lingered at the lodge door, watching them leave with those keen obsidian eyes. Liam glanced back once to see her silhouetted against the deepening forest, a guardian of secrets awaiting his return. The trek back to Clara's lodge was quiet, both lost in their thoughts. Liam stayed awake most of the night, the leather journal open beside him, grappling with Samuel Holt's fervent notes on bear intelligence. By morning, his resolve had only hardened. "I'm going back today," Liam declared over breakfast, his tone firm and final. Clara studied her grandson over her steaming tea. "I figured you would," she sighed, her shoulders easing slightly. "Your mother had that same stubborn glint when she'd set her mind. Will you tell me about her connection to that place, to Samuel Holt?" Some Clara aloud. "The rest you'll need to uncover yourself. That's how it works." She checked her watch. "Be mindful of what you handle there. Some knowledge carries weight." With his grandmother's hesitant approval, Liam returned to the hidden lodge by early afternoon. The bear was waiting at the glade's edge, as if she'd anticipated him. The cubs romped around his legs, far livelier than the shivering creatures he'd saved days before. Inside the lodge, Liam began methodically sorting Samuel Holt's research notes, arranging them by date. The progression was gripping, starting with standard wildlife observations before veering into ideas that would have marked Holt as an outlier in academic circles. Yet his approach remained precise, his records impeccable. The bear watched closely, her gaze tracking Liam's every move. The cubs roamed the lodge with the playful curiosity of youth, occasionally bringing him small items in what felt like intentional acts. A quill, a tarnished copper button, a carved bone whistle. "Are you trying to tell me something?" Liam asked the mother bear directly. She stood promptly, moving to the far wall where rough shells held sample vials and field gear. With her muzzle, she nudged a seemingly solid section of wall. Liam ran his fingers along the weathered timbers, searching for irregularities like the hidden nook he'd found before. A small panel shifted under pressure, revealing a deep recess. Reaching up to his shoulder, his fingers grazed something smooth and cool. Stone, not wood or metal. He carefully withdrew a flat, palm-sized stone amulet, its surface etched with intricate bear motifs encircling a central maze-like design. The moment the amulet rested in his hand, a strange warmth spread through Liam's palm, up his arm, and into his core. It wasn't unpleasant, but profoundly odd, like a hum resonating in his bones rather than on his skin. More striking were the fleeting images that came with it. Snippets of forest seen from a low, non-human perspective, scents rendered as vivid colors, emotions that felt foreign yet familiar. Liam gasped, nearly dropping the amulet as the visions faded, leaving him dizzy but captivated. Flipping through Holt's journals with fresh urgency, Liam found mentions of psychosensory relics and empathic conduits tied to local indigenous lore. One entry stood out. The stone carving appears to enhance neural pathways for cross-species empathic connection. Tribal stories speak of memory keepers, individuals who could tap into the collective experiences of forest guardians. Science would call this myth, but my observations suggest a biological mechanism at play. The bears, especially Ebony, respond to it, as if recognizing its meaning through inherited memory. Liam looked up at the bear. Could she be a descendant of the Ebony in Holt's notes? The amulet felt heavier than its size suggested, as if carrying a weight of meaning Liam was only starting to grasp. A scribbled note in the journal's margin caught his attention. The guardians keep the balance. The memory keepers hold the wisdom. When human and bear speak as one, the forest recalls its voice. With cautious curiosity, Liam slipped the amulet around his neck. The effect was immediate and profound. His senses sharpened acutely. The lodge brimmed with details previously unnoticed. Lingering scents weaving tales of former inhabitants. Faint forest sounds now crisp and distinct. The soft breathing of the bear family, carrying meaning beyond mere noise. Most striking was his newfound connection to the bear herself. Not words, but clear intentions and impressions flowed from her. Approval, encouragement, and an urgent pull toward something Liam couldn't yet fully decipher. He stepped to the window, looking out at the forest with heightened perception. The trees were no longer just objects. They pulsed with subtle presence, each radiating its own quiet energy. The breeze carried murmurs that teased the edges of his understanding, like a language he'd known once but lost. "What's happening to me?" Liam whispered. The bear moved beside him, her shoulder brushing his leg. Through their contact came a vivid impression, not quite words, but unmistakable. "You are remembering what humans have forgotten," Liam's hand went instinctively to the amulet, fingers tracing the carved maze. "Who am I meant to be in this?" No direct answer came, but as the afternoon light slanted through the trees, casting long shadows across the glade, Liam could have sworn he heard faint whispers in the wind, calling a name that felt almost familiar. That evening, Liam sat at his grandmother's kitchen table, the stone amulet resting between them like a quiet arbiter. He'd recounted the day's experiences, struggling to articulate sensations that defied ordinary language. Clara listened without interrupting, her weathered face showing neither surprise nor doubt. "I need to understand what's happening," Liam finished. "This isn't just stories or someone's imagination. I felt something real today." Clara nodded slowly. "There's someone you should meet. I hope to delay this, but..." She glanced at the amulet. "The forest has its own schedule." The next morning, they drove Clara's old truck down winding back roads, deeper into the wilderness than Liam had gone since arriving 3 months ago. They turned onto an unmarked gravel path that twisted through thick fir forest before opening into a small clearing where a handful of cabins circled a stone fire pit. The reservation's boundaries stretched beyond what most maps show, Clara explained as they parked. "Nathan keeps to the old ways out here. His grandfather knew mine, and he understands these woods better than anyone living." A tall, broad-shouldered man with long gray hair tied in a tight braid stepped out from the largest cabin. Despite his age, likely over 70, he moved with the easy grace of a younger man. His dark eyes, set in a face etched with laugh lines and wisdom, locked onto Liam. "Clara Stone," he called, his voice deep and resonant. "You finally brought the boy." His gaze fell to the amulet around Liam's neck, and a flicker of approval crossed his face. "And I see the forest has already started its work." "Nathan Grey Owl," Clara greeted with warm familiarity. "This is my grandson, Liam." "I know who he is," Nathan said simply, gesturing toward his cabin. "Come, we have much to talk about." Inside, the cabin was warm, scented with herbs dangling from ceiling beams. Modern tools sat alongside traditional ones. A tablet beside hand-carved flutes, solar-powered lights, illuminating walls adorned with vivid forest scenes painted on leather. Nathan motioned for them to sit at a round table of polished oak, its surface inlaid with the same maze-like pattern as the amulet. Without hesitation, Nathan extended his hand. May I see what the forest has given back to you? Liam carefully removed the amulet and placed it in the elder's palm. Nathan closed his eyes for a moment, a faint smile crossing his lips. This was carved by my great-grandfather, he said softly, given to a young researcher who honored the old ways. Samuel Holt understood what few outsiders ever do, that wisdom flows both ways if we listen with humility. You knew Samuel Holt? Liam asked, his voice eager. I was a boy when he first came to these woods. Later, I helped him make sense of the bond he was forming with the bears. Nathan handed the amulet back. The stone strengthens what's already in you. It doesn't create anything new. But Liam faltered, unsure how to finish. Nathan leaned forward. For generations, certain people have been bridges between the human and natural worlds. Our people called them memory keepers, those who could hear the language of animals, especially the bears, who guard the forest's deepest wisdom. But I'm not. Liam gestured to Nathan and the traditional artifacts around them. The gift doesn't follow bloodlines as people think, Nathan said. It chooses its carriers. Your mother had the potential, but walked away from it. Now it flows through you. Clara shifted uneasily. Emma had her reasons, Nathan. She did, the elder agreed. Corporate forces have long chased the knowledge Samuel Holt uncovered. When they couldn't control it, they tried to erase it. Your mother kept you away to protect you. From a cedar box nearby, Nathan retrieved a small bundle wrapped in soft deerskin. He unwrapped it, revealing herbs, feathers, and small carved tokens tied with sinew. A medicine bundle, he explained, sliding it toward Liam. Protection for those who walk between worlds. The path of a memory keeper draws both respect and danger. I don't get it, Liam admitted. Yesterday, I was just a kid. Now you're saying I'm some kind of bear whisperer. Nathan chuckled, the sound warm and rich. Far more than that. The bears don't just communicate. They carry the wisdom of generations, memories of a land before human sprawl, knowledge of balance, and survival humanity has forgotten how to hear. He stood, pulling an ancient leather-bound book from a shelf. Tonight, I'll perform the first recognition ceremony. It will help you understand what you're feeling and offer protection as your abilities grow. His face grew solemn. But first, know the responsibility. Others will sense your awakening. Some will try to exploit it, to bend the connection toward control instead of harmony. Who? Liam asked. Nathan shared a glance with Clara. The same forces that hunted Samuel Holt. Those who see the natural world as a resource to plunder, not a wisdom to respect. He placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. You've been chosen for this path, young one. The question is whether you'll embrace it. The medicine bundle seemed to hum with faint energy as Liam's fingers closed around it. From the forest's edge beyond the clearing, a bear's low call echoed, a single, resonant note lingering in the winter air like a question awaiting an answer. The recognition ceremony stretched late into the night, firelight casting long shadows as Nathan guided Liam through ancient rites. Words in a language Liam didn't know, but somehow felt rang through the air. Smoke from sacred herbs heightened his senses rather than dulled them. By morning, something fundamental in Liam's perception of the world had shifted. It will take time to master, Nathan had said. Start small. Listen before you try to speak. Now, 3 days later, Liam sat cross-legged in the glade before the hidden lodge, the stone amulet warm against his chest. The bear cubs romped nearby, their mother watching intently from the lodge's threshold. Following Nathan's guidance, Liam closed his eyes, focusing on his breath while opening his mind to the forest's impressions. At first, the sensory flood was chaotic, a jumble too intense to parse. Slowly, he learned to filter, honing in on one source at a time. The cubs were the easiest. Their emotions burst forth with the raw clarity of youth. Playfulness, curiosity, fleeting pangs of hunger or tiredness. Their mother's presence was more intricate, her thoughts arriving as layered impressions. Memories, sensory fragments, and intentions interwoven in patterns Liam was only beginning to discern. When he fully opened himself to her, he caught glimpses of her life. Winters foraging through heavy snow, the warmth of a den during her cub's birth, encounters with humans, some hostile, others kind. Most striking was her recognition of him, not just as the boy who saved her cubs, but as someone tied to this place, this lodge, through threads older than his arrival. Through her perspective, Liam saw himself as part of a lineage, the latest human to bridge the gap between species. Liam began recording his experiences in a journal, emulating the meticulous style of Samuel Holt's notes. He detailed the nuances of communication, variations across species, and how his perceptions shifted with the time of day or weather. The bear family gradually accepted him. First the cubs, then younger adults, and finally the wary elders. They showed him their foraging paths, watering spots, and the boundaries they upheld with neighboring groups. Through them, Liam mapped the forest with a precision no surveyor could match. His experiments grew cautiously. A coyote pack denning under a fallen tree regarded him with guarded respect. Squirrels, initially indifferent, began including him in their alarm network against hawks. Even birds responded, though their rapid, vivid consciousness was hard to follow for long. One afternoon, as spring's first tentative warmth softened the winter landscape, Liam's explorations were interrupted by disturbance deeper in the woods. Through his connection with the local wildlife, he sensed distress, a wounded predator, dangerous in its pain. Following the impressions, he found a massive grizzly bear, limping and agitated, a deep gash in its hind leg, likely from an illegal trap. The situation was tense. The bear's pain radiated like a signal, its confusion and anger threatening to overwhelm its instincts. Drawing on Nathan's teachings, Liam projected calm, non-threatening intentions while keeping a safe distance. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said aloud, the words secondary to the steady reassurance he sent with them. "I can help." The bear's gaze locked onto him, its massive head swinging in his direction. For a moment, Liam feared he'd overstepped his abilities. Then, remarkably, the bear lowered itself to the ground, maintaining eye contact as its aggressive stance eased. Working carefully, projecting calm with each step, Liam approached close enough to inspect the wound. The trap was gone, but infection loomed. Using herbs from the medicine bundle, he crafted a poultice to stave off further infection. As he worked, Liam felt a shift in his perception of the bear. Not just its immediate pain, but deeper impressions, seasonal migrations along ancient trails, hibernation dens used for generations. Salmon and runs now vanished for valleys altered by human expansion. The bear held ecological memories, knowledge of landscape changes stretching across decades. Back at the lodge, Liam sifted through Samuel Holt's collection until he found a hand-carved wooden flute adorned with animal motifs. Holt's journal referenced it explicitly. Its tones, when played at certain frequencies, deepened communication pathways. That evening, seated before the lodge with the bear family resting nearby, Liam tested the flute. Specific notes resonated with the amulet, sharply amplifying his sensory abilities. The mother bear's thoughts came through with vivid clarity, and beyond her, like a radio finally tuned, impressions from countless forest creatures emerged. As dusk settled over the glade, Liam played a simple, looping melody. The mother bear lifted her head, obsidian eyes catching starlight. In that moment of perfect connection, Liam heard her voice, not in his ears, but in his mind, clear in meaning despite lacking human words. "The forest remembers you, memory keeper. It has awaited your return." Startled, Liam lowered the flute. "Who do you think I am?" She didn't respond directly, but through their bond came a powerful impression of Samuel Holt, then the boy in the photograph, then Liam himself. Three distinct figures, yet a single presence in the bear's sense of continuity. That night, Liam dreamed of roaming the forest on four legs, perceiving the world through senses both familiar and strange, carrying memories spanning generations. He woke at dawn with the certainty that the boundary between himself and the wilderness was growing porous, a transformation both thrilling and daunting in its scope. As weeks passed, Liam balanced his time between school, Clara's lodge, and the hidden research station in the forest. With Clara's hesitant approval and Nathan's mentorship, He established a routine that juggled his ordinary life with his extraordinary experiences. The lodge needs protection, Nathan had cautioned during one of their regular sessions. Others have sought its secrets before. They will again. Heeding this, Liam salvaged several trail cameras from Samuel Holt's equipment, repairing them with parts ordered online and placing them strategically around the glade. The cameras, triggered by significant movement, sent images to a tablet Liam secured in a waterproof case beneath the lodge's floorboards. On a clear spring afternoon, Liam arrived at the lodge to find the bear family unusually restless. The mother bear paced the glade's edge, her unease radiating clearly to Liam's heightened senses. Strangers, came her warning, more impression than word. Two-legged, not like you. When Liam asked aloud, having learned that speaking sharpened his projected thoughts. Images flowed from her. Sunrise, long shadows across the glade, unfamiliar scents. This morning, while Liam was at school, he immediately checked the trail cameras, downloading the footage. The images confirmed his suspicions. 3 figures in rugged gear, moving with a professional air, had methodically searched the glade. Their actions were deliberate, not the aimless curiosity of lost hikers. Most alarming were shots of one man inspecting the lodge's lock, another photographing the exterior, and a third handling what looked like survey tools. They'd spent nearly an hour probing before heading toward the main road. Liam examined Holt's research materials, noticing with unease that several journals had been shifted from their original spots. The hidden compartments remained untouched, but the visitors had clearly been interested in the lodge's contents. Most unsettling was the final camera image. One man staring directly at the hidden lens, raising a device toward it before the feed briefly distorted. The bear appeared at Liam's side, her body taut with protective instinct. Hide important things, her thoughts pressed into him. They will return. Trusting her, Liam gathered the most critical journals, the artifacts with indigenous carvings, and Holt's detailed maps. He stowed them in the concealed nook behind the fireplace stones, then secured his own notebooks and electronics. He'd just finished when the faint hum of engines reached him. Vehicles approaching on the seldom-used fire road a half-mile from the glade. The bear's hackles rose, her cubs retreating to the lodge's shadowed interior. Go, she urged. Watch from high place. Following her instinct, Liam slipped into the forest, scaling a sturdy fir that offered cover while overlooking the approach to the glade. Through his bond with the wildlife, he felt the forest's response to the intruders. Birds going quiet, small mammals burrowing, an eerie stillness settling in their wake. 4 figures emerged from the tree-line. The 3 men from the morning's footage, now joined by a woman whose polished outdoor gear couldn't mask her authoritative demeanor. She surveyed the lodge and glade with a clinical eye, occasionally tapping notes into a tablet. This is definitely Holt's research station, she said, her voice cutting through the forest silence. The coordinates align with our records. One man approached with a folder. According to the land survey, Dr. Varon, this section falls within the acquisition boundary. The lodge itself isn't in official records. Dr. Varon nodded. Not surprising. Holt was cagey about corporate meddling. He wouldn't have registered it. She inspected the padlock door. Get this open. I want a full inventory of what's inside. As one man worked on the lock, another circled the lodge. Signs of recent activity. Someone's been maintaining it. Organized, not random vandalism. Dr. Varon's eyes narrowed. Local kids? No, this is too systematic. Someone's been here regularly, with purpose. The lock gave way under their tools. Dr. Varon entered first, emerging minutes later with visible frustration. Someone's removed the key research materials. They knew exactly what to take. She motioned to her team. Document everything left. Check for hidden compartments. Holt was clever about hiding things. From his perch, Liam felt a surge of protective anger. These people had no claim to Samuel Holt's work, or this place that meant so much to him. The bear below sensed his emotion, looking up at him with steady, dark eyes. Through their connection came not fear, but a hunter's calculated patience, the wisdom of waiting for the right moment. The intruder's search was interrupted by the rumble of a familiar truck. Clara stepped into the glade, her weathered face calm, but her stance unmistakably defiant. "You're trespassing on protected land," she called, her voice carrying the weight of someone who knew her ground. "This parcel is under a conservation easement and indigenous heritage protection." Dr. Varon turned slowly, sizing up the newcomer with cool calculation. "Actually, we have documents showing this area is slated for review under the new regional development plan." She offered a thin smile. "And you are?" "Clara Stone, legal custodian of this land under the Wilderness Trust Agreement of 1992. She produced folded papers from her coat. "I've got the documentation here, along with contacts for the Environmental Protection Agency and the tribal legal team." The standoff crackled with tension, but Liam could see hesitation in the corporate team's movements. They hadn't anticipated such resistance. "We'll take this up through proper channels," Dr. Varon said sharply, motioning her team to retreat. Her eyes scanned the glade, pausing briefly on the fur where Liam hid. "We'll be in touch, Ms. Stone." Only when the rumble of their vehicles faded did Liam climb down, his pulse racing with questions and a growing certainty that finding the lodge had stirred forces beyond his grasp. "They'll return," Clara said bluntly as they drove back. "Varon's with Crest Peak Enterprises. They've been after these woods for years. Timber, minerals, high-end resorts. They want it all." "How would you know them?" Liam asked, still reeling from the encounter. "They tried to buy my land last year. When I refused, they started snapping up nearby parcels." Clara's weathered hands gripped the wheel tightly. "Samuel Holt warned me about corporate interest in his work decades ago. That's why he vanished, to protect what he'd found." That evening, after Clara had gone to bed, Liam felt a familiar tug at his consciousness. The black bear, reaching out from beyond normal perception. Their bond transcended distance. "Come, important gathering." Slipping out of the house, Liam followed the mental pull through moonlit forest trails. The bear waited at the tree lean, her form shimmering in the pale light. Without words, she guided him deeper into the wilderness than he'd yet gone, climbing slopes and crossing small creeks until they reached a high meadow encircled by ancient firs. At its center lay a perfect ring of smooth stones, their arrangement too precise to be natural. As Liam approached, he sensed they weren't alone. From the shadows emerged the rest of the bear family, positioning themselves in a semicircle facing the stone ring. More startling were the other animals gathering at the meadow's edge. A coyote pack, a cluster of skittish hares, a towering bull elk with sweeping antlers, and even the grizzly Liam had treated. The mother bear led him to the circle's center before joining her kin. Using Nathan's techniques, Liam opened his senses fully, letting the consciousness of the gathered creatures flow into him. What followed surpassed anything he'd experienced. A complex weave of information and concerns from multiple species at once. The amulet against his chest warmed, amplifying or translating this council of minds. The bears shared knowledge of human activity encroaching on the western forest edge, machinery and digging disrupting foraging paths. The elk conveyed tainted streams below new construction sites. The grizzly transmitted disorienting sensations near newly installed equipment. Ear pain, confusion, forced withdrawal. Most chilling were shared memories of past incursions, carried through generational knowledge by species that had seen decades of human expansion. They showed Liam places once wild, now lost. Meadows buried under asphalt, creeks diverted into pipes, ancient migration routes cut by roads. This wasn't mere grievance, it was a consultation. These creatures saw Liam not as an outsider, but as a participant in a dialogue predating modern society. They weren't just accepting him, they were integrating him into an ancient decision-making network. Through the bear's memories, Liam glimpsed Samuel Holt seated in this same stone circle decades ago, receiving similar counsel. The parallel sent a shiver through him. He wasn't uncovering something new, but reclaiming a forgotten human role in ecological harmony. The black bear approached the circle's center, her obsidian eyes meeting Liam's. Through their bond came clarity about his purpose, not as a leader or controller, but as a translator and advocate. The ancient term memory keeper gained deeper meaning. He was to preserve not just human knowledge of the forest, but the forest's own wisdom, safeguarding ecological memory beyond individual lifespans. The bear shared precise locations Liam needed to know. Hidden springs vital to the regional watershed, caves rich with mineral deposits, forest pockets where vulnerable species raised their young, areas corporations sought to exploit. This wasn't mere data. It was strategic knowledge critical to the ecosystem's defense. Most striking was the revelation of the bear's intricate social structure, not driven by raw dominance, but by a nuanced consensus process. Elders were respected, yet younger members' innovative ideas held equal weight, rivaling human systems in complexity but grounded in different principles. As moonlight shifted across the stone circle, the council's focus turned to Liam. The gathered creatures assessed him, his intentions, abilities, and trustworthiness. Through their collective lens, Liam saw himself from outside, his human limitations clear, yet his unique ability to bridge worlds undeniable. The unspoken question hung in the night air. Would he embrace the responsibility Samuel Holt once bore? Would he stand as a memory keeper against threats to this ancient balance? Liam stood in the circle, overwhelmed yet certain of the rightness of this extraordinary communion. "I'll help however I can," he said aloud. The words unnecessary, but the commitment profound. The black bear approached, touching her muzzle to the amulet at his chest. Through their connection came not gratitude, but recognition of a renewed covenant. The animals dispersed silently into the night forest, leaving Liam alone with the mother bear in the moonlit glade, forever changed by the council of minds that had welcomed him into their ancient fellowship. The morning after the council, Liam found Clara on the porch, watching dawnlight filter through the firs. Something in her posture suggested she'd been waiting, perhaps aware of where he'd been. "You went to the stone circle last night," she said, not a question. Liam nodded, sitting beside her. "How did you know?" "Your grandfather always said the bears would call when the time was right." Clara gazed into the distance. "Emma, your mother was called there once, too, when she was about your age." "My mother." Liam frowned. "But you said she turned away from this." Clara sighed, her weathered hands clasped tightly. "I've kept things from you, Liam, thinking I was protecting you." She met his eyes. "It's time you knew the full truth about Samuel Holt. He was a researcher studying bear communication, the one who built the lodge. But he was more than that." She paused, choosing her words. "Samuel Holt was your grandfather, your mother's father." The revelation hit Liam like a physical blow, pieces snapping into place. His mother's silence about her childhood, the familiar face in the lodge's photographs, his own deep connection to this place. "You said my maternal grandfather died before I was born." "I'm your father's mother," Clara clarified. "Your parents met in college. Emma's studying wildlife ecology like her father, your dad in environmental policy." "They fell in love over shared ideals," Clara said. "What happened to Samuel Holt? Why did he vanish?" Clara's face darkened. His research drew the wrong attention. Holt discovered bears maintain a sophisticated communication network across generations. Ecological knowledge preserved through bloodlines. More crucially, he found evidence of human potential to tap into this network, abilities dismissed as indigenous myth. "The memory keepers," Liam whispered. "Yes, when corporations saw the potential, military communications, intelligence gathering, even behavioral control tech, they tried to seize his work. Holt refused to let it be weaponized, so he vanished with his most critical findings." "My mother, did she have these abilities too?" "She did. Emma's gift was even stronger than her father's. But after Holt disappeared, she saw the cost of pursuing it. She chose a different path, mainstream science, city life, far from the wilderness that called her." Clara's eyes grew distant. "She raised you in the city to keep you from these woods, hoping the gift would stay dormant without exposure." Then why bring me here after the accident? Why now? I had no choice. Your mothers will name me your guardian. I think she knew, somehow, that your heritage would surface despite her efforts. Better guided than alone. Clara reached into her blouse, pulling out a tarnished brass locket. I should have given you this sooner. Inside were two small photos. One of a young woman Liam recognized as his mother, the other of Samuel Holt standing before the Forest Lodge. The resemblance between Holt and Liam was striking. The day your parents died, Emma called me, Clara said, her voice catching. She'd been dreaming of bears again, said she felt the forest reaching for her after years of silence. She was considering bringing you here to connect you with your heritage. The accident happened that same evening. It wasn't just chance that the bear led me to the lodge, Liam realized. The black female? Clara asked. When Liam nodded, she continued. Holt called her Onyx. If it's her, she'd be old now, more likely a descendant carrying the connection. She hesitated, then added, bears recognize bloodlines, theirs and others. She knew who you were. Through his heightened senses, Liam felt the bear's presence in the nearby forest, listening through their bond. Her thoughts confirmed it. She'd recognized him as Holt's kin, sensing his latent abilities waiting to awaken. There's more, Clara said reluctantly. Holt's disappearance wasn't just about protecting his research. Crest Peak was smaller then, but vicious. Their agents threatened your mother to force Holt's cooperation. When that failed, there was an incident. Holt defended her, and a man was hurt. That's when he knew he had to disappear completely. And now they're back, Liam said. The same company, different faces, same motives. Dr. Varen's been digging into old land records, asking about the research station. They must have found Holt's early papers, enough to see his later work's value. The bear's thoughts pressed into Liam's mind. Danger returning. Metal things at forest edge. Wrong sound spreading. Clara watched Liam's face shift as he received the message. You're hearing her now, aren't you? Just like Holt. Just like your mother. She says they're already moving into the forest, setting up equipment. Then we're running out of time. Clara stood, resolute. We need to see Nathan. If you're set on this path, on being a memory keeper like your grandfather, you need to know exactly what you're defending and how to protect it. As they prepared to leave, Liam felt the weight of his newfound legacy settling around him. Not just a genetic inheritance, but a responsibility passed through blood and choice. Samuel Holt wasn't merely a researcher. He was a guardian of ancient wisdom, a role now calling to Liam through the murmurs of bears and the forest memories. Nathan Grey Owl listened closely as Clara and Liam recounted the confrontation with Dr. Varen and the truth about Liam's ancestry. His face remained steady, though his eyes betrayed deep concern. The timing isn't random, Nathan said when they finished. Crest Peak has been pushing for access to these northern woods for years. Now, they're zeroing in on Holt's old research station. He turned to Liam. What exactly did the bear show you at the council? Locations across the forest, springs, caves, specific trees, and images of Samuel Holt, like memories. Nathan nodded. Onyx is showing you what must be protected. But Holt's legacy goes beyond what's in the lodge. He studied Liam. He had a contingency plan for when his work was threatened. Onyx knows where. 2 days later, Liam followed the black bear along a faint game trail winding deeper into the wilderness than he'd yet explored. The terrain grew rougher, with jagged outcrops and thick firs blocking much of the morning light. They reached a swift stream carving through a granite ravine. Onyx paused at the water's edge, her gaze shifting meaningfully from Liam to the stream. Following her look, he noticed an odd swirl in the current, an eddy vanishing beneath an overhanging rock face. Below and behind came Onyx's impression. Taking a deep breath, Liam waded into the icy water, which reached his waist at its deepest. He edged toward the overhang, bending to peer beneath the surface. The churning water hid a narrow opening, just wide enough for a person to slip through if fully submerged. Onyx watched from the bank, her mental encouragement steady. Air inside, safe passage. Filling his lungs, Liam ducked under the overhang and pushed through the underwater passage. For a few heart-pounding seconds, He moved blindly through the tight tunnel before emerging into darkness on the other side. His feet found solid ground as he surfaced, gasping in what felt like an enclosed space. Fumbling in his waterproof pack, Liam pulled out a flashlight. Its beam revealed a striking sight. A small, dry cave chamber, its walls etched with faded carvings like those in the stone circle. More surprising was the evidence of human presence. A metal storage cabinet, a waterproof tent shelter, battery-powered equipment shielded from dampness. This was no makeshift hideout, but a carefully planned fallback. Samuel Holt's emergency research bunker. Liam inspected the equipment. Environmental monitors, advanced recording devices far beyond those in the lodge, and a locked metal case bolted to the cave floor. The case had both a key lock and a combination dial. After several failed tries, Liam entered the date from the locket photo, his mother's birthday. The lock clicked open. Inside were Holt's most sensitive materials: journals, data recordings, and detail guides for developing cross-species communication. Unlike the theoretical notes in the lodge, these offered practical steps to hone such abilities. One journal entry stood out, documenting Holt's growing alarm. Crest Peak agents approach again today. Their questions have shifted from ecological applications to military potential, probing range limits and control mechanisms, weaponizing what should be a partnership. I've moved critical research to this site. If needed, I'm prepared to destroy it rather than let it fall into their hands. Another notebook held damning evidence. Photographs and water sample analyses revealing illegal toxic dumping in watershed areas tied to Crest Peak subsidiaries, paired with maps of underground aquifers showing how contamination would spread to protected wilderness. Holt had been building an environmental case against the corporation while advancing his bear communication research. Most critical was a waterproof case containing technical data on frequency ranges that disrupted animal communication networks. The same technology Liam suspected Crest Peak was now deploying along the forest's edge. Holt had outlined countermeasures, methods to shield against interference, or even repurpose the technology to protect rather than harm. A final journal entry, dated weeks before Holt's disappearance, read, "If you're reading this, Onyx or her descendants led you here. The gift runs in our bloodline, but it demands choice and dedication. This knowledge isn't for human dominance over nature, but to restore our place within it. The bears have guarded these secrets across generations. Now you must do the same." Accompanying the entry was a detailed methodology for expanding communication abilities, exercises, focusing techniques, and ceremonial practices blending Holt's scientific rigor with indigenous wisdom from Nathan's ancestors. One notebook stood out with entries addressed to Emma Holt, contingency plans should anything happen to him. The final pages were written for a future memory keeper, though Holt couldn't have known it would be his grandson. "The communication network is vaster than I first thought," one passage explained. "The bears aren't just individual communicators, but nodes in a living system spanning the ecosystem. Crest Peak seeks to exploit this network. Imagine military applications of mind-to-mind communication, surveillance through animal senses, intelligence beyond conventional means. They don't grasp that this connection requires balance, reciprocity. It can't be extracted or weaponized without destroying its essence." Liam packed the most vital materials into his waterproof bag, knowing he couldn't carry everything in one trip. He'd need to return with proper storage, likely with Nathan's help. What mattered now was securing Holt's core research and evidence against Crest Peak, continuing the work his grandfather began decades ago. Emerging from a cave into the afternoon light, Liam found Onyx waiting patiently. Through their bond, he shared his discovery and resolve. Her response came with stark clarity. The memory keeper returns. The forest recalls its voice. Morning dew still glistened when 3 black SUVs rolled up Clara's long driveway. Liam watched from the kitchen window as Dr. Varon stepped out of the lead vehicle, flanked by 2 men in suits and 4 others in private security uniforms. "Right on time," Clara muttered, setting down her tea. Nathan said they'd return with legal papers within the week. The confrontation unfolded on the porch. voices carrying through the cracked window. Dr. Varon presented documents with a polished courtesy that didn't reach her eyes. These court orders grant Crest Peak access to survey lands under the Regional Development Plan, she said, handing Clara a thick envelope, including the abandoned research structure approximately 3 miles northeast of here. Clara reviewed the paperwork with measured care. These orders allow only preliminary environmental assessments. They don't grant excavation or property access beyond non-invasive surveying. Of course, Dr. Varon replied smoothly. We're documenting baseline conditions before submitting formal proposals. Standard procedure. And the armed security? Clara asked. Also standard, purely precautionary. These woods can be unpredictable. Varon's smile didn't waver. We understand Samuel Holt conducted wildlife research here. As part of our environmental assessment, we'd like to review his findings. Holt's work was private intellectual property, Clara countered, never tied to any corporation. Actually, our records show Holt received grant funding from a Crest Peak subsidiary in 1971. Varon's tone sharpened. Per that agreement, his research technically belongs to the parent company. We know someone's been accessing his old research station. We're simply reclaiming company property. From his hiding spot, Liam sensed Varon's deceit. Not through his abilities, but in the careful gaps in her words. The supposed funding link was likely a fabricated claim to assert ownership over Holt's work. After they left, Liam and Clara watched through binoculars as Crest Peak surveyors entered the forest, setting up base camps and equipment along what their permits called a limited recreational development zone. In the days that followed, Liam juggled school, assisting Nathan in moving Holt's hidden archive to a secure location on reservation land, and tracking Crest Peak's activities through his forest allies. The bears became his scouts, observing survey teams from cover and relaying impressions through their bond. Squirrels reported on equipment placed in the canopy. Birds offered aerial views of Crest Peak's growing presence. Their findings were alarming. Beyond visible surveying, Crest Peak was installing small, discrete devices, cylindrical, solar-powered units fixed to trees, emitting frequencies just beyond human hearing. Disruption tech. Nathan confirmed when Liam described them, referencing Holt's research, but reversed. Instead of enhancing animal communication, they're built to scramble it, sowing confusion to drive wildlife away. One afternoon, returning from the underwater cave with the last of Holt's archive, Liam found fresh boot prints near the lodge. Inside, signs of a thorough search. Floorboards lifted, wall panels removed, every hiding spot probed. Most troubling, one of his trail cameras had been accessed, its memory card gone, potentially giving Crest Peak images of Liam's activities and his interactions with the bears. That evening, back at Clara's lodge, they discovered it too had been searched. The intrusion was subtle. Desk drawers slightly off, Liam's computer shifted, his personal journal moved from its hiding place under the mattress. They're escalating, Clara said grimly. Time to move. Nathan welcomed them to his compound on reservation land, where legal protections offered a shield against corporate overreach. From this safer base, Liam continued monitoring Crest Peak's movements through his animal network, documenting their activities for the environmental lawyers Clara had contacted. The bears reported growing disturbances from the devices, disorientation when near them, fractured pack communication, struggles to coordinate foraging. Other species echoed similar effects, their collective intelligence disrupted by the invisible technological interference. During a supply run to Clara's lodge, Liam crossed paths with one of Crest Peak's security teams on the main road. Their leader, a steely-eyed former soldier, openly recorded Liam as he passed. That night, reviewing the day with Clara and Nathan, Liam's tablet pinged. A hidden camera had activated. The footage showed Dr. Varon inside the lodge, speaking into a recorder as she meticulously cataloged the space. Subject is using the structure regularly, her voice carried through the speaker. Evidence suggests wildlife interactions consistent with Holt's theories. Request permission to deploy monitoring package Alpha and initiate direct observation. As she turned to leave, something caught her eye. a glint near the hearth. The camera angle obscured the object, but her triumphant expression was clear as she bagged it and spoke again. Confirmation of subject capabilities. Initiating Phase 2 surveillance. After the footage ended, Nathan fixed Liam with a grave look. "What did you leave behind?" Liam mentally reviewed the lodge's contents, a chill settling in. One of the bear cubs was playing with a small bone whistle from Holt's communication tools. It must have rolled under the hearth. "If they've identified you as a potential memory keeper, they'll act fast," Nathan warned. Crest Peak doesn't just want Holt's research. They want someone with the innate ability to use it. Someone like you. As if on cue, Liam's phone chimed with an email from an unknown address. The message was empty save for an attachment. A trail camera photo clearly showing Liam in the glade, surrounded by bears unafraid of him. The message was unmistakable. "We know what you are. It's time to formalize your role," Nathan declared 3 days after their retreat to the reservation. "If you're to stand as a memory keeper against what's coming, you need the Council's recognition and protection." Liam sat cross-legged by the central fire pit as Nathan explained. The confirmation ritual, centuries old, involved challenges to test a potential memory keeper's abilities and resolve before formal acknowledgement by tribal elders. "This isn't just ceremony," Nathan stressed. "The trials gauge whether your connection can withstand Crest Peak's pressure. Many are called to this path. Few can carry its weight." As dusk fell, vehicles arrived carrying elders from regional tribes. Liam recognized some from prior visits to Nathan's compound. Dignified figures who moved with quiet authority, blending modern lives as lawyers, doctors, and educators with traditional responsibilities. "Don't let their appearance fool you," Nathan said, noting Liam's surprise at their professional attire. "These are among the most skilled traditional practitioners in the region. They understand Crest Peak's threat better than most scientists." The ceremony began with a purification ritual, sage smoke enveloping Liam as Nathan chanted in their native tongue. The elders formed a circle around him, with Liam at the center beside a small table holding objects concealed under a woven blanket. "The first trial tests your receptive abilities," Nathan explained, lifting the blanket to reveal an array of items: feathers, stones, carved figures, and plant specimens. Each carries meaning in our traditions. Blindfolded, you'll hear their spirits if your mind is attuned. Blindfolded, Liam centered himself, opening his perceptions as he had with the bears. Nathan placed objects in his hands one by one. Liam described the impressions: a feather evoking vast skies and keen sight, a stone holding echoes of ancient riverbeds, a carved figure pulsing with ceremonial chants and firelight. The elders murmured approval, though Liam couldn't gauge his accuracy. "The second trial tests your projective abilities," Nathan continued, removing the blindfold. "You must convey your intentions to creatures beyond human speech." 2 tribal members brought forward wooden cages holding a skittish hare, a wary crow, and a small garter snake. Each cage was opened, the animals free to flee but staying within the circle. Using his practice with the bear family, Liam projected calm. The hare's frantic twitching slowed. The crow, initially aggressive, cocked its head and hopped nearer. Most striking to the elders, the snake coiled comfortably in Liam's palm, its tongue flickering without fear. "The third trial tests your navigation," Nathan said. "Memory keepers must traverse physical and spiritual landscapes. This challenge was the hardest." Blindfolded again, Liam was led into the forest and left alone to find specific objects hidden among the trees, guided only by wildlife. For nearly 2 hours, he followed impressions from squirrels and birds, retrieving tokens from under rocks and in hollow trunks, responding to his silent calls for aid. When he returned, muddy but successful, the elders nodded with deeper respect. "The final trial tests your access to ancestral memory," Nathan said, producing a clear quartz prism from a beaded pouch. Used by memory keepers for generations, it reveals past imprints in moonlight. As night deepened, the prism caught moonlight, casting a spectrum across a stretched elk hide. Guided by Nathan's soft drumming, Liam entered a meditative state, focusing on the shifting colors. They coalesced into visions only he could see. Forest scenes from decades past, bears roaming unspoiled valleys now paved over, indigenous gatherings at the Stone Circle, and Samuel Holt undergoing this same ritual years before. Most vividly, Liam saw Holt's final days, his realization that Crest Peak was closing in, his choice to scatter his research to protect it, his last communion with a younger Onyx before vanishing into the wilderness with only critical supplies and findings. Emerging from a vision, tears streaked Liam's face. I saw him, Samuel Holt. I saw what he gave up to protect this knowledge. Nathan rested a hand on Liam's shoulder. Now you know what you may be asked to sacrifice. The elders conferred briefly before the eldest woman stepped forward, her gray hair glinting in the firelight. The council recognizes Liam Stone as memory keeper in the tradition of Samuel Holt. May the forest's wisdom guide him in the struggle ahead. Nathan presented Liam with a small deerskin pouch filled with traditional herbs and symbolic tokens. Tools to bolster your abilities and shield against those who'd misuse them. The path won't be easy. Crest Peak has resources we can only counter with deeper connection and wisdom. As the ceremony ended, Liam felt a familiar presence at the firelight's edge. Onyx watched from the shadows, her obsidian eyes catching the flames. Through their bond, he sensed her approval and a deeper memory of her as a young bear at Holt's confirmation. The continuity of Guardian and Keeper linked human and bear generations. The tribal council pledged legal and physical support to protect the contested forest, their resolve strengthened by Liam's recognition. What began as a chance rescue of bear cubs had grown into a renewed covenant between human and wilderness, united against forces threatening their bond. Morning light exposed what night had hidden. Crest Peak's operations had surged overnight. Heavy machinery growled along freshly graded roads at the forest's western edge. Surveyors in neon vests moved through the underbrush, marking trees and planting stakes with orange ribbons. From a rocky outcrop, Liam watched with growing unease. Beside him, Clara scanned the activity through binoculars, her face grim. They're moving beyond their permits. Environmental assessments don't include clearing. Through Liam's heightened senses, the forest distress pulsed like interference, disrupted animal movements, broken rhythms, the jarring clash of machines against natural cycles. Most alarming were the bears' reports of advanced devices installed across the zone, resembling those in Holt's notes, but more sophisticated. The animals say the equipment hurts them, Liam said. Not physically, it scrambles their communication. Bears can't coordinate foraging. Birds lose their flocking patterns. It's like static drowning their network. Clara lowered the binoculars. We need to organize a response. Nathan's working with the tribal legal team, but we need evidence of what's happening. Liam became an intelligence gatherer, leveraging his connection with forest creatures to build a monitoring network. Bears patrolled boundaries, reporting worker and equipment movements. Squirrels and birds provided eyes in risky areas. Burrowing animals relayed soil and water table disruptions. Each evening, Liam compiled these into detailed maps, charting Crest Peak's expansion and the placement of communication-disrupting devices. The pattern was clear. They were isolating forest sections, creating dead zones where animals grew disoriented. Clara mobilized her network of environmental activists and legal experts. Environmental lawyers filed emergency injunctions, citing permit violations. Wildlife biologists documented abnormal animal behavior tied to the disruption tech. Nathan provided a critical piece, a weathered map, preserved by his people for generations, detailing ancient territorial boundaries, sacred sites, and historical usage predating modern property laws. This map strengthens our legal stance, said Elena Martinez, the lead attorney. It proves continuous indigenous use and cultural significance, triggering federal protections. Clara studied the map with reverence. My father spoke of these boundaries. The North Ridge was always the line beyond which development would harm the watershed. Exactly where Crest Peak is clearing now, Clara noted. Their resistance gained traction. Independent journalists arrived to cover the situation. Environmental groups staged protests at Crest Peak's regional offices, and indigenous rights organizations issued supportive statements. Dr. Varon responded swiftly, deploying more security to block close observation. Legal counterfilings claimed economic necessity and challenged environmental assessments. Most alarmingly, the disruption devices proliferated, their range expanding daily. While monitoring from a concealed spot near the stone circle, Liam tried contacting a coyote pack that regularly reported on the western boundary. Instead of clear impressions, he met sharp, disorienting feedback that forced him to sever the connection. Onyx appeared beside him, her movements less steady than usual. Through their strained bond came fragmented warnings. The disruption field was intensifying, targeting frequencies used by predators. The technology had been refined to interfere with the neural pathways Liam used to connect with forest creatures. That evening, Nathan examined Liam after he reported headaches and trouble maintaining animal connections. They're adapting the technology, Nathan concluded. Holt's journals warned of this. Disruption fields tuned to block memory keeper abilities. Crest Peak must have accessed more of his research than we thought. Clara spread their tactical map across the table, comparing it to the ancient boundaries. They're accelerating past legal timelines. Environmental reviews should take months, but they're pushing through in weeks. Someone's clearing regulatory hurdles. The devices are creating blind spots in our network, Liam added. Areas where I can't sense anything. Animals avoid them or get disoriented passing through. Nathan's weathered finger traced a pattern on the map. They're encircling the sacred sites, cutting them off from the forest. If they succeed, the land's spiritual network will fracture beyond repair. We need to counter their tech, Clara insisted. Holt's research must have something on neutralizing these fields. Liam nodded, recalling the underwater cave archives. There are notes on harmonic interference patterns. Holt was working on countermeasures, but never finished. Then you must complete his work, Nathan said softly. This was always your role, Liam. A memory keeper doesn't just preserve knowledge. They adapt it to face new threats. As night fell, Liam felt the weight of his grandfather's legacy. Somewhere in Holt's research lay the key to protecting the forest's ancient communication network, and the interconnected consciousness evolved over generations. The technological storm of the forest's edge threatened not just wildlife, but a way of knowing humanity had forgotten to value. Through his faltering connection with Onyx, a single clear impression broke through. The forest remembers, even when technology silences it. Find the old voice that speaks through new storms. The disruption device's effects worsened daily. Liam's bond with the forest creatures grew fragmented, like a signal fading in a dead zone. Onyx still reached him, but her presence came through distorted, demanding intense focus to understand. We need something to counter these devices, Liam told Clara and Nathan as they reviewed their shrinking intelligence from the forest. The animals are disoriented. Some are abandoning territories held for generations, Nathan said grimly. The disruption is spreading faster than we expected. Our legal efforts won't resolve in time to prevent lasting damage to the communication network. Liam had been combing through Samuel Holt's research from the underwater cave, searching for solutions. The archives held theoretical countermeasures, but Holt hadn't completed practical applications before vanishing. That night, as Liam struggled to sleep, Onyx's presence brushed his mind, fainter but urgent. Follow. Last place. Final words. Despite the hour and rising risks, Liam slipped out of Nathan's compound into the dark forest. Onyx waited at the tree lean, her black coat blending with the shadows under moonlight. She led him not to the lodge or cave, but along a new path, deep into the roughest part of the contested territory. They traveled for over an hour, Onyx navigating routes that dodged Crest Peak's monitoring devices. They reached a massive lightning-scarred fir, its trunk split yet alive, new growth sprouting from ancient wood. Onyx nudged the exposed heartwood. Liam inspected the tree, his fingers tracing the weathered grain. Near the base, nearly invisible unless sought, He found a small hollow containing a weatherproof case. Inside was an old cassette recorder carefully wrapped to protect it. Back in Nathan's compound, with Clara and Nathan watching tensely, Liam connected the recorder to speakers. The tape was worn, but Samuel Holt's voice emerged clearly enough. To whoever finds this, I hope it's Emma, but I fear she may not return. Static crackled briefly. Crest Peak's interest in my work has turned dangerous. They've built prototype disruptors from my early research. If you're hearing this, they've likely deployed advanced versions. Holt detailed the disruption technology specifications and vulnerabilities. It targets neural frequency ranges for cross-species communication. Like any wave-based system, it can be countered with harmonic interference. The recording provided precise instructions for building countermeasures, simple assemblies of natural materials and specific electronic components, placed strategically to create a protective network. Most critically, Holt continued, the countermeasures need activation by a memory keeper, someone whose mind naturally bridges these frequencies. The technology amplifies what must already exist within the operator. As the recording neared its end, Holt's tone softened, personal. If my daughter finds this, tell her I never blamed her for choosing another path. The gift is both burden and blessing. Static flared again. If a new memory keeper has emerged, know that technology is just a tool. The true power lies in the ancient bond between human consciousness and the living world. A connection our species has forgotten but not lost. His final words carried deep emotion. The forest speaks with many voices. Listen for mine among them. Liam sat in silence as the tape ended, absorbing not just the technical details, but the personal message from a grandfather he'd never met. Through their shared gift, Samuel Holt had reached across decades to deliver exactly what was needed in this crisis. He knew this day would come, Nathan said softly. Holt foresaw Crest Peak's persistence, even decades later. Clara studied Holt's technical specifications. These countermeasures can be built with local materials. The electronic components are simple, nothing we can't source quickly, but they need precise placement in areas Crest Peak heavily monitors. The animals will help, Nathan suggested. Even with disrupted communication, they sense the threat to their home. Working through the night, they built the first prototype countermeasure device per Holt's designs. Crystalline stones arranged in precise geometric patterns, conductive metals forming circuits, and small solar-powered oscillators. The design wove natural materials resonating with forest energies, amplifying effects beyond pure technology. By dawn, Liam tested the device in a disruption-affected area. The result was immediate, a small radius of restored communication where his bond with wildlife snapped back into focus. It works, Liam confirmed to Clara and Nathan, but the range is limited. We'll need dozens, placed throughout the forest. Then we build dozens, Clara said, already gathering materials. As morning light pierced the trees, Liam felt Holt's presence, not mystically, but through the legacy of knowledge passed from one memory keeper to another. The solutions had waited, preserved by foresight, for this moment of crisis. Onyx appeared at the glade's edge, her approval clear despite their strained connection. A single impression broke through. The old voice speaks, the new voice answers. The forest remembers both. Deploying Holt's countermeasures demanded careful strategy. Crest Peak's security patrols had tightened, making key areas dangerous. Liam proposed a solution. The animals can carry smaller units. They know safe routes around patrols and can place devices where humans won't look. Each unit was tuned to Holt's specifications, using crystalline resonators from sites Nathan identified, arranged in sacred geometric patterns to amplify natural frequencies. The technology blended indigenous wisdom with modern electronics, fostering harmony. Onyx orchestrated the distribution. Despite the disruption fields, her powerful mind reached Liam clearly enough to coordinate. Under her guidance, forest creatures became agents of resistance. Squirrels ferrying small units to treetops, coyotes moving mid-sized devices to hidden dens, and the Grizzly placing larger units in remote caves beyond Crest Peak surveillance. Within 3 days, a network of countermeasures created expanding pockets of restored communication across the forest. In these zones, Liam's connection with wildlife strengthened, enabling detailed intelligence on Crest Peak's movements. The findings were dire. The corporation had accelerated, bringing in construction equipment before environmental reviews were complete. Water testing stations were being dismantled rather than monitored. Survey markers were shifted to exclude sensitive ecological zones from protection. They're falsifying the environmental impact assessment, Clara concluded, reviewing Liam's reports. Manipulating data to rush approvals. The animals responded with growing coordination. As the countermeasure network expanded under Onyx's guidance and Liam's strategy, they employed tactics to confuse and delay Crest Peak without direct conflict. Wildlife trails shifted, leading surveyors into boggy dead ends. Equipment suffered unexplained malfunctions. Survey markers vanished overnight, reappearing in wrong locations. GPS data in Crest Peak's records inexplicably skewed, requiring time-intensive verification. Most effectively, animals relocated dens and nests to areas slated for development, triggering mandatory environmental reviews that stalled progress. The animals understand what's happening, Liam told a group of environmental activists at a monitoring camp near the forest's edge. They're not just reacting, they're using deliberate strategies, exploiting human regulations. Media attention surged as the animals' behavior drew notice. Nature photographers captured unprecedented images of species cooperating in ways that defied biology texts. Viral videos showed bears guiding other animals away from development zones. Scientists noted equipment failures tied to animal presence. Workers reported eerie sensations, being watched by intelligent presences, dreams of animals issuing warnings, or crippling anxiety near certain forest areas. Several quit, citing experiences too unsettling to rationalize. Nathan rallied further support through traditional channels. Elders from neighboring tribes held ceremonies at the stone circle, reinforcing the forest's spiritual protection. Their presence drew respectful media coverage, emphasizing the land's cultural significance. Public opinion is turning, Clara noted, reviewing news reports. Crest Peak's responsible development narrative is unraveling as people see the truth. Dr. Varon countered with advanced disruption devices operating on new frequencies to bypass Holt's countermeasures. For days, Liam's communication network faltered until he adapted the countermeasure designs using Holt's contingency notes. The breakthrough came when Nathan taught Liam to use an ancient ceremonial drum, carved from the heartwood of the lightning-struck fir that held Holt's final message. Played at the stone circle, its vibrations amplified the countermeasure network's reach exponentially. The drum speaks to the land's oldest memories, Nathan explained. It recalls agreements older than human speech. With each beat, Liam felt the forest communication network strengthen, uniting species in a shared field of resistance. Animals that typically avoided each other gathered in extraordinary assemblies, sharing territory and purpose against the threat. Crest Peak's headquarters issued a press release announcing a temporary pause in assessment activities, citing unusual environmental conditions requiring further study. Behind Crest Peak's corporate rhetoric, Liam and his allies saw the truth. The forest had united in defense, displaying an intelligence and coordination that defied conventional understanding. That evening, as sunset bathed the stone circle in golden light, Liam sat with Onyx, watching scores of forest creatures gather in the protected space. Predators and prey set aside their roles, drawn to a greater purpose. Through the restored communication network, their collective consciousness touched Liam's mind like an ancient intelligence stirring from slumber. We remember this alliance, came the impression, not from one animal, but from the forest's integrated awareness. Humans stood with us before. They can again. At dawn, the roar of heavy machinery shattered the calm. Despite legal challenges, media scrutiny, and unexplained setbacks, Crest Peak had secured emergency permits, citing economic necessity and resource access. A convoy of bulldozers, excavators, and logging equipment advanced toward the watershed's headwaters, the ancient springs feeding the regional ecosystem. Liam felt the forest's alarm ripple through him as animals fled the oncoming destruction. Onyx's urgent call woke him moments before Clara burst into his room at Nathan's compound. "They're moving in with full equipment," she reported, her face grim. The injunction was overruled last night in a closed session. Nathan was already rallying their response, coordinating with tribal elders, environmental activists, and the legal team. "We need a physical presence now," he directed. "Peaceful but firm resistance while the appeals court reviews." Within an hour, Liam stood at the front line where Forest met Access Road, joined by Clara, Nathan, dozens of tribal members, activists, and local citizens. News vans lined the road, cameras capturing the standoff against towering firs. The machinery paused before the human barrier. Crest Peak's security formed a perimeter as Dr. Varen emerged from an SUV, flanked by county officials. Her confident stride faltered at the sight of the crowd and media. "This is a legally permitted operation," she announced through a megaphone. "Interference with Crest Peak's activities will lead to removal and potential prosecution." Nathan stepped forward, his calm authority commanding attention. "This land is protected under multiple statutes, including the Indigenous Sacred Sites Preservation Act. Your permits were obtained through irregularities now under federal review." The standoff grew as more supporters arrived, including environmental scientists documenting sensitive ecological markers. Some local residents, initially swayed by economic promises, joined the protesters upon seeing the scale of destruction. Unseen by human observers, but vivid to Liam, hundreds of animals gathered behind the tree line, positioned strategically, awaiting guidance through the restored communication network powered by Holt's countermeasures. Dr. Varen huddled with security, clearly weighing the public relations fallout of forcibly removing peaceful protesters under media watch. Her frustration showed as she issued sharp orders to technical staff unloading equipment from vans. "They're deploying enhanced disruption tech," Liam whispered to Nathan. "Military-grade versions of what they've tested." Nathan nodded, retrieving a leather case from his truck. Inside the case was an artifact Liam hadn't seen before. An intricately carved signal horn, crafted from a single piece of ancient wood, its surface etched with the same maze-like patterns as the amulet. "Carved from the first tree that grew in the stone circle," Nathan explained, placing it in Liam's hands. "Used for generations to call the forest guardians in times of greatest need." As Crest Peak's technicians activated their equipment, Liam felt the forest communication network falter. The countermeasures held, but strained against the new disruption field's power. Even Onyx's strong presence reached him with effort. The moment for action had come. At the boundary of forest and development, Liam raised the horn. Its sound, neither purely musical nor mere noise, vibrated at frequencies that bypassed normal hearing, resonating in the bones and tissues of all within range. The effect was immediate and extraordinary. Behind the human protest line, the forest stirred with movement as animals emerged from hiding, not in panic or aggression, but with unified purpose. The bears appeared first, Onyx at their lead, forming a visible line at the forest's edge. Behind them came elk, coyotes, countless birds settling in branches, and the grizzly standing tall at the center. The construction crews froze at the sight of this impossible gathering. News cameras pivoted to capture the unprecedented scene. Predators and prey united in a living demonstration of resistance. When Crest Peak's security tried activating sound-based deterrents to disperse the wildlife, the systems failed inexplicably. The animals stood firm, their collective presence forming a barrier between the machines and their home. Most striking was the effect on the workers. Several removed their helmets and stepped back from their equipment, unwilling to act against what felt like more than animal behavior, an ancient call to human-nature communion. "Those animals know what they're doing," one excavator operator muttered to his supervisor. "I didn't sign up for this." The disruption technology collapsed entirely when Liam activated Holt's final countermeasure, a harmonizing device, blending elements from all forest ecosystems, placed at the stone circle and triggered through his connection to the network. Dr. Varen, watching her technological edge unravel and her workforce hesitate, strode toward Liam, her calm facade giving way to a mix of fury and fascination. "You're doing this," she said, voice low to avoid media ears. "You've not only replicated Holt's work, but surpassed our projections." "Not replicated," Liam corrected, Onyx moving protectively to his side. "Completed." What Samuel Holt began wasn't about control. It was about remembering how to listen. Varen's gaze flicked to the gathered animals, her clinical interest overriding momentary awe. "Do you realize the applications of this communication? Research, military, intelligence. It's invaluable. The same offers you made my grandfather before you forced him into hiding." Liam cut in. "This isn't a technology to own. It's a relationship to honor." As they spoke, the media captured the extraordinary standoff. Corporate machinery against peaceful human protesters backed by an unprecedented wildlife coalition. The imagery spoke louder than legal arguments ever could. The forest stood as a conscious participant in its own fate. The dramatic standoff at the forest's edge became the turning point. Images of animals in apparent organized resistance alongside human protesters flooded national news. Environmental groups leveraged the footage to galvanize public support, while indigenous rights organizations emphasized the land's cultural significance. 3 days later, a federal judge issued an emergency injunction halting all Crest Peak activities pending a full review. Investigations launched into the irregular permitting that had bypassed environmental protocols. Financial reports noted major investors questioning Crest Peak's handling, their stock price dropping as the controversy grew. Dr. Varen made a final attempt to salvage the project, approaching Liam privately with an offer of collaborative research, balancing development and conservation. Her polished demeanor cracked when he refused, revealing her fixation on Holt's work. "You don't grasp what you're protecting," she argued. "This communication could revolutionize our understanding of consciousness itself. The military applications alone are exactly why it must stay protected." Liam cut in. "My grandfather knew that decades ago." Crest Peak's retreat began the next week. Equipment vanished from staging areas, disruption devices were removed, though several were lost, allowing Liam to study their technology. Major investors pulled funding after leaked documents exposed Crest Peak's knowledge of watershed contamination risks they'd publicly denied. As spring warmed the forest, Liam focused on preserving Samuel Holt's research. With Nathan's guidance and Clara's technical help, they created a digital archive blending Holt's scientific findings with indigenous knowledge on cross-species communication. "We need to protect this while making it accessible to the right people," Liam said, working in the renovated lodge, now their research hub. "Not hiding it, but ensuring it can't be weaponized." The tribal council designated the forest a protected research area under indigenous management, with Liam as lead researcher continuing Holt's work. Environmental groups secured a conservation easement for surrounding lands, buffering against future threats. The forest communication network evolved remarkably, with disruption tech gone and countermeasures enhancing connectivity. The ecosystem showed increasingly sophisticated collective intelligence. Species that rarely interacted began coordinating behaviors, boosting ecological resilience and diversity. Onyx remained Liam's primary link to this growing consciousness. Though aging, her mental presence stayed vivid. Through her, Liam learned she'd known Samuel Holt. Not directly, but via memories passed from her mother, one of Holt's original research subjects. "Bears are the forest's primary record keepers," Liam explained to a select group of research assistants trained in basic communication techniques. They preserve information across generations. Younger tribal members showed strong aptitude for the methods Liam taught. Several young tribal members showed natural abilities akin to Liam's, suggesting the Memory Keeper gift was not confined to bloodlines, but flourished through opportunity and training. One autumn evening, as golden light filtered through the trees around the stone circle, Liam sat in quiet communion with the forest consciousness. Onyx rested beside him, her once dark muzzle now grayed, her mind still sharp despite her aging frame. Through their bond came impressions of closure and continuation, cycles ending as new ones began. Onyx conveyed that her physical life would soon fade, but her memories in essence would merge into the collective consciousness she'd helped sustain for decades. Most powerfully, Liam sensed Samuel Holt's presence, not as a spectral visitor, but as a living memory within the forest network, preserved through the communication pathways Holt had devoted his life to understanding. The Memory Keeper is never alone, Onyx's impression assured. All who served before remain in the remembering. As dusk settled, Liam returned to the renovated lodge where Clara waited with their evening meal. The walls now held research equipment alongside indigenous artifacts. The space a living laboratory where science and tradition harmonized. From a carved wooden case, Liam retrieved the stone amulet that had awakened his abilities. Its maze-like patterns caught the lamplight, seeming to pulse with the consciousness it had unlocked. Onyx showed me something profound today, he told Clara. The communication network stretches beyond lifespans. The forest remembers everyone who served as its voice, including Samuel Holt. Clara nodded, realization softening her weathered face. That's why he wasn't afraid to vanish. He knew he'd never truly be gone. Outside, the forest's evening chorus swelled, its harmonies increasingly deliberate to ears learning to listen. Within the soundscape, those with the gift could discern distinct voices, the wisdom of countless human and animal guardians who'd upheld the ancient covenant between consciousness and wilderness. Liam took his place among them, not as a controller or interpreter, but as a participant in a dialogue older and deeper than human civilization. A conversation between species that had never silenced, only waited for humanity to remember how to hear it again.